Good. Let's get started with this webinar. So welcome to this guided onboarding session with me. I'm Andreas Willich, the community manager of SpecFlow. Yeah, we will recording the webinar and we'll upload it later to YouTube, so you can also rewatch it then later. Some points before we start. This is a hands-on session. Idea is I go through with the steps with you. You follow me, and if you have questions, you ask them. 4 questions. Please use the Q&A tool of Zoom. You have there's somewhere down there a Q&A button. Makes it easier for me to be able to answer all your questions. And yeah, make sure that everything is asked. Please don't chat. Please don't use the chat for that. That's hard to monitor. Yeah, when the question is relevant to the current task, I will answer them at once. If not, I will answer them at the end. We have also a dedicated Q&A session at the end, and there will be also a short survey after the webinar. Good. Before we start, let's have a quick poll. I would like to know if you already have been using SpecFlow before. If you could quickly answer that, makes it easier for me. I don't know which details I go more or not. Okay, a lot of newcomers. Good. So let's go. So I have here Windows 10 virtual machine. There's nothing more on it installed than Visual Studio. And to start with SpecFlow, the first thing you normally do is to install our Visual Studio extension. Let's do this. Now it started. This virtual machine is big. So okay. Let's don't yet create a project. I got to change something. Let's see if this is still working. Good. Can you still see my screen? And is it readable? Still readable for you? You can. If somebody could quickly answer that in chat, that would be great. I forgot to change the resolution. Good. Back to installing the extension. Visual Studio, go to extension manage extension. It's here directly the marketplace, and you search there for SpecFlow, and you find the SpecFlow Visual Studio 2019 extensions. Say download, close Visual Studio. That Visual Studio is installing the extensions. You give them a short to click on modify, and then it is installing the whole extension. Takes a moment. And should be done in a minute. Close. Let's start Visual Studio again. Good. And a good way to see if Visual Studio is installed is if you say the extension is correctly installed. If you say create a new project, you see a SpecFlow project template. That's one of the features we added. You get added with the extension and use it. But before we use that, let's start first with creating our application under test, our subject under test. And in our case, it's now a simple class library. Call it, our example is about a calculator. So we name it SpecFlow calculator. Next, yeah, take a .NET Core 3.1 project, and let's Visual Studio create this. So there we put make now a small library, what we will then later test with SpecFlow. So, and our subject under test is, let's replace this code. I share this in the chat with you all. You don't need to type it. Yeah, retype it from my screen. That's the file. So what we have here is a calculator class. It has two properties, first number and second number. And we have a not yet implemented add method, what should return the sum of these two properties. So, file works fine. So, and we have our subject under test. Now we will create our test project, and for that we will now use the project template, and we call it SpecFlow calculator.specs. Let's say create. And now you have also here a wizard where you can choose for which .NET framework, .NET implementation you want. To target, let's use the same as the calculator project, and also this test framework you want to use. SpecFlow supports multiple different ones, so we have our own SpecFlow plus runner, test runner, but we also support XUnit, NUnit, and MS Test. Let's use the runner in our example here, and we also want to have this fluent assertion library also added automatically. We will need this then later. So let's create. And this creates us now a project with multiple folders and everything. So let's have a look what we have here. We have a feature file. So in SpecFlow, you write your scenarios in so-called feature files. And this is used we use a language called Gherkin. It has some keywords like feature and scenario. You have given and then. And there you write your scenarios, and then we later automate the different steps. Each line here is called a step. And it has a parameter, multiple parameters, and it don't has to be at the end. And yeah, you can react on that in your automation. This here is called a feature description, and there's something where you can use a markdown as an example. So to the scenario, you have here the given, when, and then steps. So these are the given. You can combine them with an and. Then you have when and then, and this is similar. Perhaps you know it. There are the triple A's: arrange, act, assert in unit testing, and this is slightly translated to given, when, then. So given is the arrange part, when is the action part, and then is the assert part where we check the stuff. Good. All the automation for this is in so-called step definitions. This is here in the second class. And I quickly pull these side by side that you can see it. better. So we have here the feature file and here the method for it. So the link between this step and this method is done by this attribute on the method. So you have here given, and then here as parameter, this is a regular expression, and this is matched. So the first number is 50. This is matched to this expression, and for that, SpecFlow knows that it executes then this method, and we get here the parameter and can do something. And same also for the second step and the when and the then step. We will see this a little bit later. So we have a nearly complete example already here created. So let's build this. And we should see now here on the left side our scenario appearing. So there is it. With a calculator feature and add two numbers scenario. So what's happened when we execute this? Nothing. It's still blue. So what is happening here? Answer your question in a moment, Rajiv. What is happening here? It's still blue. So this is you're using the SpecFlow Plus Runner, and for the SpecFlow Plus Runner is you need a SpecFlow account to use. It's free, but you need to create an account and activate it on your machine. To do this, if you go to the output pane and switch to tests and scroll up a little bit, you have here output with the runner, checking activation, please sign in for a free SpecFlow account. Then let's do this. So with Control and click, you open the URL. Browser is opened. And this VM has sometimes redraw problems. Yes, now there is the welcome screen. We're supporting Microsoft accounts for logging in. Then you have the account picker. I take my corporate account that I already have here. And it wants a password. So give me a moment that I can enter my password. Normally it's the two-factor authentication that's popping up, probably in the next step. So password. Now it's the two-factor authentication. And proof sign in. Yes. And we are done. I already have a SpecFlow account on this for this email address, so I'm done. If you have a new account, you get some additional steps. So here from the docs, you get then you have to accept some permissions that we can read your email address and name. That's most of the stuff. What we request, we can't request less than this. Sadly not possible. Then some quick questions about you and create the account, and then you end at the same screen as I did. And when we now go back to Visual Studio and run now again, we should see it yellow. And this means when we have look at here in the output of the step is we have some logging output from SpecFlow, and then we have here the steps, and then we have given the first number is 15, and then we see a pending calculator step definition given the first number is. Pending means it's not implemented. Now let's do this and get some get the steps implemented. What we can do, one feature of the Visual Studio extension is that we also have navigation. So we can say here, go to definition, and we jump to the code here. And let's now to the question is, the question is, he asked what the add symbols. It's sometimes we generate, not in this case, we generate steps with an add at the beginning. And this add is C# C# directive that you can make that you don't need to escape backslash. And so if I have \n now this way, it's really \n. And when I remove the add, this is now a character, a new line. So add means it's a verbatim string. I'm not sure about the exactly technical term, but it's for strings that you don't need escaping. And yeah, good. Let's implement this step. Let's remove all this code. And what we need is we need an instance of our calculator class. To get that, let's make a project reference that we can access it. And then in our case, this easy case, we can really make it simple, make it straightforward for us. We make a field, a straightforward field, and also instantiate this already here. And then we can access this here in this method and say that calculator.first number equals number. This is possible because it's such an easy and small example. Probably have complicated more business logic, then you need to get differently and more complex way to your subject under test. But this is all depends on your project. So when we run this now, it's still yellow, but when we look at the output is now the first step that's done, and now we have the panning in the second step. No, then let's continue with implementing this. So the second step is similar to the first step. Second number equals number. Good. And the third step, the when step, what we need is to call the add method on the calculator. And now, as when you remember, this method has no state, it returns the result. So we need to, what we need to do is we now need to save this result somehow that we can access in the assertion. And the nice thing with SpecFlow is that this instance of the step definition class is, it's the same through one scenario. So you get for every scenario, get its own instance. And that means we can share the state, the result, as a field. So let me say actual result equals calculator add. We save it here in this field. And now we can assert it in the then step. What I always like to do is change this result to expected result to make it more clear what we get. And now we can say, and now the Fluent assertion libraries comes into place. So let's add this using statement for it. And now we can write actual result dot should be expected result. And we in SpecFlow team are big fans of this library because it makes really nice assertion API code to write your assertions, and you also get really nice error messages if the assertion triggers. Good, let's build it, run it, and what is the result? Okay, it's red. Let's have a look at the output. Method or operation is implemented. Yeah. What we did now is we made the test first red and checked that the test is working in itself. And now we are implementing the feature. And in that case, it's our add method. And this needs to be implemented like first number plus second number. Build it again. Run it. And it's green. You have automated our first scenario. All steps undone. Cool. So, first scenario. Let's add a second scenario to the whole thing. I quickly need a browser. This one. So let's add a second scenario. And as we have a calculator, let's make a subtraction scenario. So put this here, and I also sent this to you in chat. So what happened here? Let's format this a little bit. So what you can see is we are using some steps, reusing some steps we had already here in the scenario, and that's one of the features and nice things about SpecFlow. These steps are global by default, so you can use the same step in every scenario in every feature file in your project and have the same behavior at the end. So we can use the first and second number binding and also the result binding. And here, I hope you can see it. The two numbers are subtracted. This when binding, it's purple. And this means there is no binding for this method. There are multiple ways now to generate this binding. One is we have in the context menu, generate step definitions, and a dialog opens. But what I'm always using is I simply go to definition, then I get a small pop-up, which skeleton binding, a step binding skeleton code as a suggestion. And I say yes, that I get it in the clipboard. I switch to my step definitions and paste it here. Yeah, that's one of where we created with an add. And now we can implement this. So we say actual result equals calculator.subtract. And that it compiles, we need to generate this method. I pressed Alt Enter to open this quick actions, and the method is generated. Let's build it again. You see we have now the second scenario here, and we run all of them. The second one should fail again because we didn't implement the subtraction. Let's do this. Return first number minus second number. Run all. Done. Both of the scenarios are now green. Good. That was the how you can automate your scenarios and With this, you can then add in your CI pipeline and run it in your pull request build or your nightly build. What we noticed is in the last years is these feature files, they are in source control. Developers, testers have no problem with that. Open it in IDEs, but for non-technical people, it can be sometimes quite hard to find these feature files and read them. So what we created is SpecFlow plus Living Doc. It's a tool to generate the living documentation, and living documentation is, where you combine your documentation, how the software should behave, like the feature files, with real test execution results. So you see if the application is behaving correctly or not. So how do we create this? Let's open the folder. I need this one. So first let's open the command line, and we need to install .NET tool first. .NET tools are a nice way to install the command line tools. Let's see. List. So we don't have anything installed. So what I now do is .NET tool install SpecFlow plus living doc CLI -- global. Okay, I did it wrong. .CLI. This installs now the command line interface and command line tool, and now we have a command called living doc available with some parameters. Well, notice if this is your first time you install a .NET tool, it can be that you need to restart your command prompt to get environment variables and so correctly set up. I did this already, so there's no problem, and you saw I can execute it. And what we now need to do is we switch to the output directory of the project, because there are there's first the assembly, the test assembly, the SpecFlow calculator specs.dll, and also there's a test execution JSON here. And this JSON includes all the execution results we have here. Generated is this because of this NuGet package here, the SpecFlow plus Living Doc plugin NuGet package. With that, this generates it automatically, and you get this with the templates. We need that. So what we can now do is we say Living Doc, then test assembly. Then we specify the test assembly. So this is SpecFlow calculator.specs.dll. And then we say -t for test execution JSON. Press enter. And now we get, okay, it's generated Living Doc HTML. If you look in the Explorer, we have it here. And we open this, we have here our Living Doc. On the left side, we have our feature tree, folder structure, and our feature file with scenarios. And you see here we have the checkboxes, check marks, that everything is fine. I see also here the markdown. Okay, something is wrong with the image loading. I have to check that. But this is because the file is not available, so it's there. So we have here the markdown, formatting, and links and everything, and the scenario with the checkboxes, and also some analytic stuff, how this is executed. Also, if you have some unused step definitions or some dead code here. And we found out that's quite useful and interesting for non-technical people to have a look at these numbers and see it here. And you have also some search. So add it here, and you filter this, and you see that exactly where there. It's quite nice. and brings the feature files from your source control into a single HTML file that can be easily shared. Yeah, and with that, we are at the end of the demo. So you saw you create a project, how you automate the first steps. You have the first scenario screen, and then what you also can do with, for example, Living Doc to get a nice test reporting and living documentation out of it. So, and before we go to the Q&A section, I have one question for you. We would like to know where you heard from us, from SpecFlow. It's always interesting to know how you found us, what got you interested. So if you could quickly answer that. Okay, thanks for that. So thanks for that. So word of mouth, Cucumber, and BDD. Good. And we have a question. So Rajiv is asking, can you tell how to generate test reports using default SR file as a profile file? So yes, I can tell you that. I can show you that. So by default, the runner, this is a SpecFlow plus runner exclusive feature, is generating also a test report. If you switch to test again here and look at the output at the end, we have here some adding test execution report, something. And here a report file. And when we open this, you get here a test report out of the box. It got a little bit dusty, I would say. It's a little bit classic on the UI design, on the design. It's still there. What you can do is when you add as a profile file to it, so to say add new item, and here on the we have a SpecFlow section, you have here the as a profile file, and you important this, remove the one, because if it's default one as a profile, we don't find it, and ignore everything what's in there. And we add this. We have, this is the configuration file for the SpecFlow Plus runner. And let's clean all the garbage out of it. And what you can do is there are some configurations options for the runner, and not all, I also don't know by heart. So what you can do is here on our docs for the runner, we have here report. You can disable it completely. You can define a different template, and you can also then with a different template you can adjust the output name here. And for the templates, they are we have a whole tutorial about this, how to customize these reports. I share this link with you in the chat, and they have the whole description of it. You need to copy the template and you can adjust it. Yeah, and then you could adjust this. Go away. This report here. One thing is we won't add new features to this report. Our focus for reporting is Living Doc. So if you do something in the reporting page on FeatureWise, we will do it in Living Doc and not in the execution report for the runner. What we also added here is what is not here in this demo, but I can also show this to you, is what we added some weeks ago is test output. Output API. So with test output, with some special API, you have to use, you get then this test output, and you see then also the output stuff at your step in Living Doc. So what was one highly requested feature? You can also add files to it, not only message. This is a simple message, but this is also files to it that are clickable, and then you can open it. So that's there. It isn't here in the demo. You can't see this here. But we have this feature here. So yeah, it's repo is there, and it won't go away. But have a look at Living Doc and see on it if this is works for you. If you're missing some features, we have, and that's a good segue, we have a dedicated forum on our community page. When it's open. It's taking so long. Give me a moment. Yeah, so we have a dedicated feature request forum. I also shared a link in the chat with you all, where you can request features, and you can also upvote existing features. And this is something what we take into account for planning our roadmap. And when you have a C, you have here Rider support with 53 votes, what we implemented. You can, it's an extension for Rider there. Include screenshot of failed tests. We included this because of this, and also the next one. So the three highest ones are we implemented them because of the feedback from the community that these features are highly interested. Good. I hope this answered your question, Rajiv. Any other question I can answer you? So if not, have also a look at our YouTube channel where all the recordings of the previous webinars and onboarding sessions are, and also some content pieces, how to automate the different stuff. And yeah, thank you for joining. You can reach out to me on Twitter and on LinkedIn if you have questions, or go to our website, follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn to get the latest news. And also we have also in the forum here, general discussion forum for general discussion about SpecFlow and all automation stuff. Good. Thank you for joining again, and hope we see you soon. Bye.